In the Star Wars galaxy, no word carried as much fear as the word Sith, a name that, at various points, referred to a species, a few civilizations, and an order of powerful Darksiders. The Sith haunted the Republic for its final few millennia, bringing it to the brink of collapse in war after war, all part of their eternal crusade against the Jedi Order. Eventually, the Sith were successful in destroying both the Republic and the Jedi, though they themselves were destroyed soon after. But despite their role in galactic history, the Sith are still largely unknown to many Star Wars fans. In this video, we're going to try and change that, tackling the history of the various Sith orders and why they differed from each other.
Attention, Sergeant on deck!
Unlike the Jedi Order, which existed as one continuous organization until the Sith brought it down, the Sith were much more fractious. The main order went through a variety of mutations over the years, and there were a number of offshoots as well. In this video, we'll be covering the 6 main dynasties: the original Sith, Naga Sadow's Sith, the True Sith, Revan's Sith, the New Sith, and the Order of the Sith Lords. The first Sith Lords were 12 Dark Jedi, exiles sent out into the unknown by Jedi as punishment after the 100-Year Darkness. They landed on Korriban, where they discovered the Sith species, a race of red-skinned, Force-sensitive humanoids. The exiles conquered the Sith, taking their adopted homeworld of Ziost as their capital, and declared themselves the Lords of the Sith, the rulers of a new Sith Empire. Through alchemy, the exiles were able to merge their bloodlines with those of the native Sith, ensuring future generations of Sith Lords would be just as strong in the Force as they were. The ranks of the first Sith Empire were almost entirely composed of Force sensitives, as all Sith were naturally open to the dark side and actually drew on it as a form of sustenance, empowering it in turn. They were not all Sith Lords, however. That title was reserved to a council of 12, the heirs of the original exiles. Per the original system, the Sith Lords were the 12 Sith in the Empire who were the strongest in the Force, with 2 of the council being elevated above the others, the ruling Lord and his second-in-command. The latter received the title of Shadowhand, while the former was the Dark Lord of the Sith. Sith became Sith Lords through a mixture of backstabbing, contests of power, and manipulation, so as to ensure the strongest always ruled the Empire. By the time of the end of its golden age in 5000 BBY, the Sith Empire ruled just around 120 worlds, and yet it had the strength to match the Republic, which was dramatically larger. This was in no small part due to the formidableness of the Sith species and the completeness of their military machine. Many Dark Lords over the course of the Empire's history were responsible for this strength. Ajun T'Pal, the leader of the original exiles, laid the Empire's foundations, while Tulak Hord, perhaps the greatest Sith warrior to ever live, more than doubled the Empire's size. Marka Ragnos brought the Empire into its golden age through manipulation of his rivals, only for it all to come crumbling down. Almost immediately after Ragnos' death, a power struggle began between the Sith Lords. The 2 greatest of Sith, Ludo Kresh and Naga Sadow, vied for the title of Dark Lord even during Ragnos' funeral. Sadow triumphed with promises of conquering the Republic, but his attempted war of conquest, the Great Hyperspace War, failed, and the armies of the Sith fell back to Korriban in tatters. There, Sadow's fleet was met by another fleet led by Ludo Kresh, who was still salty over being the runner-up, and there, above Korriban, the Sith Empire destroyed itself. Sadow killed Kresh, but he was forced to flee when the Republic followed his fleet back to the Empire. In his absence, the Republic carried out the Sith Holocaust, wiping out both the Sith species and the Sith Order, or so it seemed. In truth, not 1, but 2 groups of Sith had escaped. By far the larger of the 2 was the True Sith, an army led by the infamous Darth Vitiate, which settled on Dromund Kaas deep in the ruins of the Empire. But we'll come back to them later and instead focus on the other group of escapees, Naga Sadow and his Massassi warriors. They travelled to Yavin 4 where they built up a civilization in exile. The Massassi weren't the brightest of Sith, and so for hundreds of years, Sadow was the last Sith Lord of his line. But that changed when he was discovered by Freedon Nad, a human Dark Jedi that sought the secrets of the Sith. Sadow took Nad as his apprentice, but after Nad had learned all there was to teach, he killed his master and then went on to use his newfound abilities to conquer and rule over Onderon. Nad died of old age, but his spirit lived on, driving his descendants toward the dark side. A team of Jedi that included one Ulic Qel-Droma purged Nad's influence from Onderon, but the conflict between them drew the attention of Exar Kun, a proud Jedi Knight that sought to understand the Sith. Nad's spirit lured Kun over to the dark side, guiding him first to Korriban and then to Yavin 4, where Kun claimed the title of Dark Lord and destroyed Nad's spirit. Soon afterwards, Exar Kun took on a fallen Ulic Qel-Droma as his apprentice, and together they orchestrated the Great Sith War, which nearly destroyed the Jedi Order and the Republic alike. They swayed armies of Jedi over to the dark side, inciting students to rise up against their masters on a galactic scale. They were, however, defeated in 3996 BBY, the same year they had begun their war, as Ulic returned to the light and Kun destroyed his physical body, leaving his spirit trapped and impotent on Yavin. They were the last of Naga Sadow's dynasty of the Sith, but they were no less important. Exar Kun reshaped what it meant to be Sith, forever recasting the Order as one of fallen Jedi, which would recruit from the ranks of its enemies. He may not have lasted long, but as the spirit of Mark Aragno said to him in a vision, because of Exar Kun, the Sith would never die. The next dynasty of the Sith would arise not even 40 years later, when Revan and Malak founded their own empire. Like with Exar Kun, their Sith Empire was built on legions of fallen Jedi, and they retained Kun's tradition of only having two proper Sith Lords, a Dark Lord and a Shadow Hand. But unlike the Sith that came before them, Revan's Sith didn't really have much of a claim on the legacy of Ajunta Pal. Revan filled his armies with fallen Jedi and traitorous Republic soldiers. He built his fleets with Rakatan technology, and he trained his enforcers in an academy on Korriban. But at the end of the day, that empire was less one of Sith and more, as Kreia put it, the corrupted remnants of the Republic. That Sith dynasty didn't last very long either. After a few years, Malak struck down Revan and claimed the title of Dark Lord, taking first Darth Bandon and then Bastila Shan as his Shadow Hand. But the redeemed Revan came back and, like the total Chad he was, saved Bastila, killed Bandon and Malak, and broke the back of the Sith Empire in a matter of weeks. Revan's Sith lived on for a few years under the Sith Triumvirate, a union of scattered forces led by Darth Traya, Darth Nihilus, and Darth Sion, but in 3951 BBY, Mitra Surik came along and killed all three of them, and helped wipe out the last of their forces. Revan's Sith were very, very different from all those that came before and most of those that came after. It had the same guiding codes of the Sith that came before, but other than that, it was more of a dark mirror of the Republic than anything. This was because Revan founded his Sith Order not to oppose the Republic, but rather to transform it, so as to oppose other Sith. The True Sith Empire led by Darth Vitiate, which still waited in the dark. The True Sith quietly rebuilt in the shadows, hiding from the Republic and nursing their strength until it seemed the Republic would be unable to stop them. In 3681 BBY, the Sith unleashed their armies against the Republic, sparking the first of many, many wars between the two parties. By that point, the True Sith had evolved greatly from the Empire whose legacy they carried on, and yet, in many ways, they were true to that legacy. Their ruling Dark Council of Sith Lords, who by that point all used the title of Darth numbered 12, much like the original Council of the Sith Lords, with only the Emperor, Vitiate, elevated above them. Their culture, practices, and general Sithiness were all carried over from the Empire of old. And yet, the True Sith made changes to the Sith ways too. They began recruiting Sith Lords from the outside as well as from within, accepting humans as second only to Sith purebloods, as the original species was by then called. Their aesthetics resembled those of Revan's empire more than those of the original Sith, but more importantly, their ideology was different as well. While many of the new Sith Empire were taught just as prior Sith had been, the leaders of the True Sith had their own radical take on dark side philosophy. They sought to destroy the will of the Force itself and to plunge the whole galaxy into chaos unending, turning it all into a cauldron of war and constant, massive atrocities. Their leader, Darth Vitiate, took that ideology even further. He sought to consume all life, much as Darth Nihilus had before him, and to destroy the universe itself. Fortunately for the universe, he never came anywhere near close to achieving that goal. The True Sith had a decided advantage over the Republic, and in their first year, they succeeded in conquering half of it. It's quite possible they could have destroyed the Republic and the Jedi with it were it not for Vitiate. Vitiate's hunger for power and urge to destroy eventually turned him against his own empire, leading him to attempt a long series of schemes to conquer the galaxy, each more feeble than the last. Eventually, Vitiate was destroyed, and over the years that followed, the Sith Empire collapsed. Just a few centuries after their triumph, the true Sith were all but destroyed, and for a millennium and a half, it seemed once more that the Sith were dead and gone. With them died the Sith purebloods and most of their original tenets and culture. But the Sith weren't totally gone. A few scattered cults carried on the legacy, unnoticed in the Outer Rim. Then, in 2000 BBY, a fallen Jedi Master named Phaneus sought them out and learned the ways of the Sith from them, declaring himself Darth Ruin and gathering hundreds of fallen Jedi to his side. Darth Ruin's new Sith were, appropriately, called the New Sith, and the 1,000-year conflict that ensued between them and the Republic was called the New Sith Wars. Ruin's reign over the New Sith was short, however. His take on Sith ideology was founded in extreme selfishness and egocentrism, and his students eventually got sick of it, teamed up, and killed their master. This set the tone for the next 1,000 years of Sithery. The New Sith were not a singular order. They were a loose collection of untold thousands of small Sith groups, allying and jockeying with each other in a bid to rule the galaxy. They had no common ideology, no common leader. They had nothing in common, save for the Sith Code. This changed in 10,010 BBY when the New Sith united under the Brotherhood of Darkness. But the Brotherhood was destroyed just a decade later at the Battle of Ruusan, thanks to the manipulations of Darth Bane. In the New Sith Wars, the New Sith by all rights should have been triumphant, and as Darth Bane saw it, the reason they weren't was because of the infighting and a tolerance for weakness. He believed the dark side was like venom. The thinner it was spread, the weaker. Thus, to concentrate its power, he came up with the rule of two and founded the Order of the Sith, the final evolution of the Sith legacy. In the new order, there would be none of the armies, politics, and lesser Sith that all prior orders had had. There would just be two Sith Lords to plot the Republic's demise, a master and an apprentice. And 1,000 years after the founding of Bane's order, one such pair did indeed destroy the Republic. So that was our look at the various dynasties of the Sith. But what do you think? Which of these orders interested you the most? Let us know in the comment section below. And just before we go, guys, make sure you check out all those juicy links in the description below if you want to join our wider Geetsly's community. We have our main Discord server where you can chat to myself and other Star Wars fans, our Geetsly's gaming network where you can play games with other Star Wars fans, and the Patreon if you want to help support the channel more than you already are by watching this video. Anyways, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.